Hi, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Today, we will continue on Chapter 8, which is Managing Project Stakeholders and Communication. Before we start, let me introduce our team members. First, Muhammad Naimullah, then Muhammad Syauqi Hafizuddin, then Muhammad Luqman Syakir, then Muhammad Ushamin Danian, and last me, Muhammad Mukhlis. So, what we will share today is about stakeholder analysis, monitoring and controlling the project communication plan, project metrics, reporting performance and progress, and last, information distribution. So the first subtopic is stakeholder analysis. As we learned in Chapter 4, the formal organization is the published structure that defines the official lines of authority, responsibilities, and reporting relationship. While the formal structure tells us how individuals or groups within an organization should relate to one another, it does not tell us how they actually relate. The informal organization bypass the formal lines of communication and authority. It is because of the inevitable relationship that become established over time in any organization. Power in an organization is determined by how well one is connected in the informal network. The informal organization also can be more complex than the formal organization because their relationships are established from positive and negative relationship over time. Stakeholders are individual or group or even organization that have a stake or claim in the project's outcome. It can be whether from the successful or unsuccessful project. So stakeholders can be shareholders, employees, and so on. The informal organization may be more difficult to understand or explain, even for those well-connected individuals. To help the project managers and project team understand the informal organization better, we can create stakeholder analysis process. First step is develop a list of stakeholders who have an interest in the successful or unsuccessful project. Then identify the stakeholders' interest in the project by assuming +1 for positive interest, 0 for neutral, -1 for negative interest. Then determine the degree of influence each stakeholder has on a scale of 0 as no influence to 5 as high influence. Then define a role for each stakeholders. For example, every project should have a champion or someone prominent within the organization who will be a public supporter of the project. Then identify an objective for each stakeholders. Then last, identify a strategy for each stakeholders. Monitoring and controlling the project. Regardless of how well a project is planned, unexpected situation will require adjustment to the project schedule and budget. A project manager will not lose credibility because an unexpected event or situation arises. He or she will lose or gain credibility in terms of how they handle a particular situation.
Moving on to the next section is the project communications plan. In a project, the people involved can communicate formally or informally among them. In this section, we will know who has the specific information needs, what are those needs, how will these needs be met, what can they expect the information, and what will be the format of the communication. Stakeholders are divided into 3 categories, that is the sponsor, or known as client, the project manager, and the project. So there are 5 key areas for developing the communication plans. First is the stakeholders, second is the information requirements, third is the type of report or metric, fourth is the time availabilities, and the last one is medium or format. So the first one is the stakeholders, where stakeholders are the people that have a stake or claim in the project's outcome. Secondly, the information requirements, driven by the stakeholder needs. Information requirements will vary by project, but typically focus on scope, schedule, budget, quality, and risk. The third one is type of report or metric. It is dependent upon stakeholder information requirements, can take the form of informal or formal reviews of deliverables, milestones, newsletters, or other forms as needed. Next is the timings or availabilities. Driven by stakeholder needs, information requirements will vary by project, but typically focus on scope, schedule, budget, quality, and risk. And the last one is the medium or format. It defines how the information will be provided, for example, paper reports, face-to-face meetings, emails, etc.
Now we move to project metrics. Project metrics is a qualitative measurement of some attribute of the project. The communications plan described in the previous section is the output of the communication planning process. However, a project matrix system must be in place to support the information requirements for all of the stakeholders. In general, project matrix should focus on the following key areas, which is the first one is scope, schedule, budget, resources, quality, and risk. A good project metric must be first one is understandable. A metric should be intuitive and easy to understand. Otherwise, the metric will be of little value and will most likely not be used. The second one is quantifiable. A quantifiable metric is objective. A metric should have very little bias as a result of personal influence or subjectivity. The third one is cost effective. Data must be collected in order to produce a metric. Subsequently, a metric should be relatively easy and inexpensive to create and should not be viewed as a major disruption. The fourth one is proven. A metric should be meaningful, accurate, and have a high degree of validity in order to be useful. The metric must measure exactly what one wants to manage. And the last one is high impact. Although the efficiency of computing a metric is important, the metric must be effective. Why measure something that has little impact of the project? There are four principles of project measurement system. The first one is a measurement system should allow the team to gauge its progress. The second one is the team should design its own measurement system. The third one is adopt only a handful of measures. And the last one is measures should track results and progress. Diagram on the right are called burn down chart. Burn down chart provides a useful tool for reporting a project's progress, popular in the agile software development methods. The burn down chart shows how the scope, features, functionality, or work is being completed over time. Simple to develop using the spreadsheet software package and graphing function. And the burn down chart visually displays the amount of work that can be delivered in a single iteration. Project team could predict a completion date based on the number of iteration or sprints.
Okay, now so we are going to learn about the value concept. So in value concept, we have three different value, which is planned value, PV, earned value, EV, and actual cost, CV. So let's take a look by one. So what is the meaning with word planned value? So the planned value is the plan or budgeted cost of work schedule for an activity or component of the work breakdown structure. So the next one is earned value. Earned value is a measurement of how much the budget we should really spend on a project. And the last one is actual cost. So the actual cost is the cost incurred for completing an activity or component of the work breakdown structure. Okay, so for have better understanding about the EV, AC, and PV, so our groups decide to give an analogy about the scenario in the real life situation. So, the story begins when Image as well. He wants to make a popiah carbonara for his family. So what he's gonna do, he needs to find the price of all ingredients for making the popiah carbonara, such as carrots, the price of sausage, sauce, and meat, and whatsoever lah. So after a lot of research and survey at internet such as Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and whatsoever browser lah, Image Session has calculated the amount of capital for making popiah carbonara is 20 ringgit. So the 20 ringgit here is the planned value because 20 ringgit is the value he recognized after did a lot of research. So next, when Image has bought the ingredients at the store, the amount needed to pay for the ingredient is 18 ringgit, which means it less than 2 ringgit than the planned value. So that's the actual cost lah, 80 ringgit. So why this is happen? The price actual cost is not the same with the planned value because not all the store have the same price of ingredients. So such as my day have the different price with the Giant, and Giant have the different price with the Tesco and Lotus and whatever store lah. So not all store have the same price. So after finish all the tasks to make popiah carbonara cheese, there is the balance of unused ingredients. Therefore, Image has recognized he could likely can save as much as 3 ringgit before spending. So lastly, he think that he should spend only 15 ringgits only for making the popiah carbonara. So we can see the difference between EV, AC, and PV here rise. So the PV is 20 ringgit, the AC is 18 ringgit, and the EV is 15 ringgit. So hopefully you can have the better understanding about this value concept.
Okay, the next is cost variance, CEV, which is the difference between a WBS components plan or estimated cost and its actual cost. An error value analysis of a project can be useful for understanding progress and refining the WBS estimate. The CV is computed by subtracting actual cost from earned value. So the formula is CV equal to EV minus AC. And if you get the negative value, it means over the budget. For the positive value, it means under budget. And the value equal to 0 means project is right on budget. Okay, next is CPI. That means short form for cost performance index. That is the percentage to determine the percentage of work completed per dollar spent. Okay, if you get the ratio greater than 1, it means ahead of budget. If the ratio is less than 1, it means behind the budget or cost overrun. And for the ratio equal to 1 means the project is right on budget. Okay, and we move to the next. There is a schedule variance, SV. It means the difference between the current progress of the project and its original or planned schedule. So the formula is SV equal to EV minus PV. And if you get the negative value, it means the behind schedule. And if for the positive value, it means ahead of the schedule. And if you get the value equal to 0, it means project is right on schedule. And then SPI. SPI means the short form for Scheduled Performance Index. It is a ratio of the work performed to the work schedule. And the formula is SPI equal to EV divided by PV. And you can get the ratio greater than 1, it means the ahead of schedule. For the ratio less than 1, it means behind the schedule. And for the ratio equal to 1, it means the project is right on the schedule.
Okay, now we are going to discuss about the summary project performance matrix. So in this subtopic, we are going to understand about the EAC, VAC, and TCPI. So these tables are the given value for calculating the EAC, VAC, and TCPI. All right. Okay, now we are going to learn about EAC. So EAC is stand for estimate at completion. So what does it mean? What the use of EAC? It estimates the most likely total or final value based on our project's performance and any risk that should be considered. So EAC, it has two types of variance, which is typical variance and atypical variance. Those formula is quite similar but have difference in the formula. So it is easy to calculate the EAC because the value is already given, and what you guys need to do is just insert the value into the formula, and then you got the final answer. So before when you get the final answer, you need to interpret the value of your final answer, just like for atypical variance. Just like for typical variance, 53,333 and 33 cents. So if we believe the variance encountered so far will continue for the remainder of our project, then the total budget to complete this project is estimated to be 53,333 and 33 cents. So that's for typical variance. How about the atypical variance? So atypical variance, if we believe that the variance encountered so far will not continue for the remainder of our project, then the total budget to complete this project is estimated to be 65,500. All right. So next we are going to learn about the VAC. So VAC is stand for variance at completion. So what does it mean? It is a measure of variability of EAC. So let's say after you insert the value into the formulas given here, either for typical variance or atypical variance, so you got the final value. If you got the higher value of VAC, which means you have the higher variability of EAC. So otherwise, if you got the lower value of VAC, which means you got the low variability of EAC, which means the real actual budget for your overall project is totally almost the same with the EAC. All right. So let's move on to the TCPI. So TCPI is stand for to complete performance index for EAC with atypical and typical variance. So for the typical, it's only involve CPI only. Which, CPI stand for cumulative performance index. Meanwhile, atypical variance is involve CPI and SPI. SPI is stand for schedule performance index. So just like the VAC and EAC, you guys to need how to calculate the TCPI. You guys just need to insert the value into the formula, and then you get the final answer. So I think that's all from me.